Understood.
Mm-hmm.
We are live. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Whatever Show. This is our Monday, not straightforward edition of the Daily Whatever Show, and I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Aiden Wharton.
Good
Aiden, how's
morning,
it going?
everyone.
I don't know what it is about your last name. I can't say it without like the hard H. Wharton.
Horton. That's how my principal in high school would say it. But like, it sort of felt like he was making fun of me. It feels like you're in on the joke. This feels like
I'm
camaraderie.
most assuredly not making fun of you. I potentially blame Family Guy and Stewie for,
Oh,
yeah.
mm-hmm.
So sorry
Which
about
I will
that.
take. I will take that.
Yeah,
I'm a big
yeah.
Family
It
Guy
is
fan.
meant with a compliment and and pure love. So please don't take offense. I literally don't know if I can say it the other way anymore.
Then I don't want you to.
Yeah, then don't. Then
Should I add an H to yours? Should be Lawrence Winnerman.
oh my God, please do. Actually, yes, that would be amazing. Are you kidding? After like the childhood taunts of like Whiner Man or Wiener Man or Loser
Mm-hmm.
Woman, are you kidding? Like,
Yikes. I would get Warthog. That was my
right,
childhood taunt.
right.
Kids are so nice.
And kids are so nice.
So
Except you were
kind.
just like, are you kidding? Look at this shirt I put on. Warthog? Are you kidding? No.
I mean,
Sweetie,
a
no.
little bit.
Oh my
Dude,
God.
it's so gross here. I'm like, I wanted a sweater today because I was like, I woke up super early and it was like still dark just because of the clouds. And I like lit some
Right.
candles and I was like,
Ooh.
yeah, I was like, I need a different energy this morning
Yeah.
to start the week.
Yeah, like we had summer last
Mhm.
Monday for my birthday. It was literally like a summer day. It was 70 and sunny degrees and a nice little breeze. It was absolutely perfect. I was outside all day, and then
Ugh,
rain and freezing temperatures again. So fuck this winter. I'm
this
so
is the
ready for it to
worst.
be over.
Spring
Right?
is so sad.
Yeah. Yeah. Aiden,
There we
I'm
go.
so excited. We've got a friend of yours joining us, Andrew
Mm-hmm.
Restieri, who you had on your podcast
Podcast
that you
getting
released
close.
last week. Yes,
Yeah.
getting close. Everyone go check it out. If you have not subscribed to Aiden's podcast, you absolutely must do it. The conversations he has there are so real and authentic, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, but you were asking questions of Andrew in the podcast, like as they would come into my head, right? Like,
Oh, I love that.
yeah, it was pretty remarkable. I was like, oh, I would ask him this next, and then you asked that question. I was like, oh my God, right
It's
on.
because we're
I
kindred
love it.
spirits.
Yeah. So we're really lucky and excited to have Andrew with us today. Let's bring him on. Let's just
Bam.
start off with Andrew joining us as quickly as possible. Hello,
I'm
Andrew.
here.
Good
Hello.
morning.
Good morning.
Andrew, I'd love it if you could introduce yourself to the chat. We've got a really active chat here at Not Straightforward and the Daily Whatever Show. I'd love it if you could just tell them
They're
who
the
you
best.
are, what you do.
Sure. So my name is Andrew. I can do that, I think. My name is Andrew Restieri. I am a PhD candidate at Cornell University. And I study digital intimacy, most specifically among gay men. So I ask a lot of questions. If you haven't listened to the podcast, if you have listened to the podcast, this will be repetitive. But if you haven't, I ask a lot of questions about consent and privacy and online visibility and how gay men sort of negotiate those questions in online spaces, on the apps, on places like Grindr and also Instagram and everywhere. So I'm gearing up to do the final year of my dissertation research now. And yeah, that's my story.
And Andrew, one of the things that impressed me is you've got a master's, right? Like you've got a master's degree. You've already got several degrees, and I'm really curious about how you decided to take your master's and focus it on this topic in particular. I mean, other than being a gay dude who uses apps.
Mhm. That's
Like,
part of it, right?
what was the thing that made you like really focus in and be like, this is it. This is the thing that I'm doing my dissertation on.
Yeah, it was kind of an accident, honestly. So I got my master's, and then started my PhD. I came into my PhD asking really sort of broad questions about online queer communities, like how queer people navigate digital spaces in ways that, these spaces that aren't necessarily built to accommodate them, and how do we, use those spaces and the tools at our disposal to find community, to find solidarity, to carve out space for each other. So those were like the big questions that brought me to my PhD. And then about a year into my PhD, I started getting really interested in revenge porn scandals. And we can talk about that term, which I have a whole soapbox about that term. But there were some like cases that I was reading about of nude leaks, and I was interested in the way folks were talking about them and writing about them in this way that it's like, oh, it's this huge violation of consent because the nude photo is being shared beyond the initial exchange. And that sort of simple definition of revenge porn actually like sort of stopped me in my tracks, thinking, I sort of feel like that happens all the time in gay male online sexual circles. Yeah. And it doesn't always feel like it's revenge porn, right. So that was sort of what stopped me in my tracks early in my PhD and made me say, I actually think there's something here that I might want to explore further. Like, when does something become problematic versus when is it okay versus when is it actually kind of sexy? Like, how do the gay male practices around this disrupt more like mainstream or normative ways of thinking about what it means for your nudes to leak? Right. So that I sort of got hit like a brick with those questions about a year into my PhD, and I sort of explored it as a little rabbit hole and only became more and more obsessed, and have now dedicated my entire life and career to asking those questions.
This is great. Like, you've been here for a minute and I already have like 100 questions and directions that we could go off on. I just want to step back for half a second and kind of the early part of your answer, talking about gay men using online spaces in ways in which they weren't intended, right? Which is sort of the subtext of all gay male history across all time, right? Sure. Like, it makes me think of, like polari, the use of like a secret language to communicate in times where it was literally a death sentence to be out, and rest stops, right? Like, men's public restrooms, and using other spaces, public spaces, in ways in which gay men could connect that that aren't the way that they were designed for the rest of society. So that's kind of a fascinating piece right there. Is that still in any way kind of a piece of what your work is focused on? I'm just curious.
For sure. I mean, I think there's such a rich, it's like fundamentally a part of gay male history, as you said. And I think, and Aiden and I have talked about this a little bit too, that I really, I don't take this approach that these online platforms came in and like changed everything. Where I think gay men have been like navigating spaces using their own sort of coded language and behaviors as long as gay men have been around. And I think to start the clock when Grindr became popular is to ignore like a really rich history and a really like an interesting sort of backdrop for how and why gay men are taking up space in these sort of covert ways nowadays. So it's very much it's foundational.
Yeah.
It was even interesting. I just saw like a piece, I think it was from the New Yorker, that was essentially like talking about the ramble. And it again made me like, one of the top comments, which was the thought that I had, was like, again, like, do we have to expose like all of our gay culture moments to the wide world. I mean, it happened with like the Sniffies article last summer. And it was, again, it's like, where's the level, like, as everyone wants to explore everything and as everybody feels like they need to find the next scoop because we are all our own little empires, like, yeah, it like really made me think about privacy in a different way too.
Hmm. Well, and I think also, Aiden, playing off of that, the idea that kind of gay exclusive spaces used to be
Hmm.
significantly more hidden, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, even on the internet, not that long ago, there used to be a site, maybe it still exists, I don't know, Bear 411, which, in the like
Should we find
ear-
out?
early 2000, yeah, go look. I have no idea if it's still there. The dude who ran it was a total fucking asshole, by the way. You could get banned just because you didn't like respond to his messages. It was absolutely like a personal little kingdom. But, for like the early 2000s, if you were a bear, you kind of heard about it from other bears. Like at a bar, they'd be like, "Oh, are you on Bear 411?" And that was the way that you connected. It was absolutely, pre-mobile, or not pre-mobile phone, but pre-smartphone, pre-app for sure. Um, and the only way that you knew about it was somebody else told you. I don't even think it was particularly Googleable at that point. The dude was not going for SEO optimization, right? So, yeah, still there.
It's still there, and it still looks like it is from 2005.
I mean, like in 2005, that was the shiz.
Yeah.
If you were a bear and you wanted to get laid in 2005, that
was the
where
way.
you were. Yeah.
It also, like, this, I don't know if this is like the right place to point this in, but as I was thinking about it this morning, it also brought me back to the conversations, Lawrence, that you and I have had just about like how gay men and sex and fear and risk all live together.
Mm-hmm.
And like, obviously, I think that is most apparent with the AIDS epidemic. But even now, when you think about like how we want to engage digitally, sexually, there is still this level of risk and fear that is still part and parcel. I don't think it's exclusive to gay people and like sending nudes. I think it's sort of broad, but it was an interesting connection where I was like, even in this space where we want to have free, fluid sexual interactions, there is still this like looming specter of what happens to this when or if they get out.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, it kind of goes to the little brief conversation we had right before we started the show, right? Where I confessed to Aiden and Andrew that I got stood up 3 times this weekend because I'm in Indiana, right? Super boo. And for whatever reason, there's like a cadre of like 25-year-old dudes who are obviously not out, right? They are obviously DL and super scared. And, they have contacted me and they're like, "Oh, you see, like you're hot. You seem like a nice guy. I like daddies. I'm curious." And I know for a fact in all cases, because it was, came down to the moment of go time, and I'm sure they were like, "Oh my God, I can't actually do it,"
Right.
And so I think that's an interesting piece of it as well, that like you guys are in New York City, the experience that you're having on the apps is in a way very different from the experience I'm having here, very different from the experience I had in Seattle, because it's a different community of people,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that comes up for me a lot where it's the visibility of the Grindr grid or of Sniffies or of Scruff or wherever is like really precarious in in a place like New York City. You can be like super visible on Grindr but like still somehow anonymous,
right?
Because you're in a sea of so many people and you can walk 3 blocks and find a completely different Grindr grid. Where if you're in a small town or if you're outside of, major gay areas, maybe your Grindr grid looks exactly the same every day rather than like a constant shuffle, an influx of new people.
100%.
Yeah. And,
I open any of the apps and the nearby, like on any given day, it's exactly the same people.
It's exactly the same people. So it's like a different, the politics of visibility there are really different. Yeah. It's a very different calculation to like make yourself available in that way. to somebody who, you might then run into at the grocery store, and now all of a sudden you're outing yourself and that person might know someone who and it's a different calculation fundamentally than it is when you enjoy sort of the safety of relative anonymity in a place like New York City.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd say like yes to a degree, because I still have like the same people here, and it's the same like because I live 2 blocks from the gym and across the street from a gay bar. So I have like a mix of like I definitely see my neighbors and we either avoid each other or like hey, or when I had Grindr. But then it's also like people at the gym and I'm like, oh, I know this person has messaged me 6 times and I've ever responded, but now we both know, and it is still like that strange like pseudo like parasocial relationship.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's honestly, it's kind of a level beyond parasocial, maybe, right?
Right.
Because, in parasocial, I feel like there's engagement and there's kind of, I don't know, even if not active interest, there's at least kind of some social niceties. And this is maybe a step beyond parasocial, where it's like awareness. I don't know. Andrew, have you thought about kind of quantifying that level of relationship, or what you would call it? Or
yeah, I'm not sure. It's something that it's reminding me of the story I told on the podcast of that guy at the bus, Aiden.
Right.
That like that.
Let's tell it again.
Yeah,
I'll tell it again. I'm sorry for repeat listeners, but I am doing my PhD at Cornell, which is in a small town, and I had been hit up by this guy on Grindr repeatedly, and I hadn't responded to him. And we saw each other on the bus, and we made eye contact. And then he sort of chastised me on Grindr for like having the nerve to make eye contact with him on the bus, but not responding to him on Grindr. And that's like sort of peak like small town Grindr politics to me, where it's like you're always and like Aiden said, it's not only small town. You can run into these people. You can run into people who you ignored on Grindr at the gym. Obviously anywhere. But I think what I'm trying to articulate here is just that the calculation that you have to go through of rendering yourself visible in this way, it feels maybe scarier, and that the stakes are a little bit higher when you're just fundamentally less anonymous than you otherwise would be, or when there are fewer alternatives, right? When there's like I think the psychology of it is different when you can just move on to the next person. Versus there's a finite number of gay guys in a, however many mile radius. In Ithaca, I get reached out to by gay guys who are like 30 miles away. And in New York, you don't get reached out to by anyone who's more than 1 mile away, so it's it's a different
in New York,
thing.
it's like 30 miles away, we're never having sex, bro.
30 miles away, you're in California. Like that's like, what are you talking
like
about?
3 miles away is hard.
Right.
Yeah. That's long distance. That's not doable.
In Fort Wayne, I get reached out to from guys like in Detroit and Columbus, Ohio, and Cincinnati and Louisville, because it's like, are you a day and a half drive away from me? Great. We could fuck over a weekend. Like, let's make it happen. Like, oh my God, you're one of the few.
I'm like, I wonder if there's any positive to that. Like, I wonder if there's any sort of, right, like I grew up in a very small town as well. And I always sort of attribute my empathy towards the fact that the town was so small that you couldn't be rude to anyone.
Right.
But again, you still have this sort of like online persona to hide behind. What is it? The online disinhibition effect. But again, I wonder if there's any sort of like difference in how people engage with it in high density populations versus rural in terms of how they respect each other.
I don't know about respect. I definitely think, going back to my like original point about how queer people like make community for each other I think you can like leverage something like Grindr to, as we all know, to make friends and to like meet other gay people. And just, it doesn't have to be sort of nefarious, and it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm outing myself. It can be, I live in Indiana and I don't know any gay people here. And like, where are all the gay people hanging out? It could be, you can find them in places like Grindr. If you're interested in rural queer experiences, I really recommend a book, Out in the Country by Mary Gray, who did like a wonderful ethnography of rural queer populations and sort of where queer people in rural America, like how you can like build queer community out of Walmart.
I definitely need to check that out.
Reading recommendation for the listeners.
You know, it's so interesting. I moved here about 2 years ago and kind of showed up on the app sort of like, what's up? Where are the gays at? I'm new to town. And it just sort of radio silence. And I was like, are we having a funeral? Like what happened? It is, I think, peculiar to this place. Fort Wayne happens to be very churchy. Like it's very, 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 like it's a very religious little town. And I mean, not little, it's like 250,000 people. It's not like nobody's here.
Right.
I just think if you're queer and you're from Fort Wayne, you move away because it's not really safe here in a way that it might be in a college town like Ithaca, for example, right? So it's been a very interesting experience because even the vibe online on the apps has a very particular sort of repressed flavor to it. So, Andrew, you had mentioned before the show that you're going on like a little tour of not big city queer America. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's all a work in progress, so don't hold me to like anything that I'm about to say. I have to go through a whole bunch of approvals and stuff. But yeah, I think I'm really interested in my dissertation research of not just like sitting in New York City and talking to, you know, the kinds of gay men that Aiden and I interact with all the time that be sort of really easy for me to get in touch with, who I'm still like really excited to talk to. If you're a New York City gay man, please still email me. But it's like I said, where I think the politics are really different. And I'm not going to sit here and like make claims about what it means for gay men to put their nudes out there on the internet when I think it might be a really different calculation for a gay guy who lives in New York City than a gay guy who lives somewhere more rural, right, or even suburban. So I'm hoping to get at least like a taste of that by spending my summer hanging around New York City, but also hanging around some other spots around the country that we'll see how much funding I get and how much time I end up having. So before I'm working on a schedule for all of that now, but trying to investigate that question specifically of like, is it different for a gay guy who lives in Indiana to put their nudes out there versus a gay guy who lives in New York City? Maybe it's not, but I have to talk to like enough people and from both communities to arrive at a conclusion about that.
Yeah. I mean, just anecdotally, I would say almost certainly it is different, right? Like
I expect it to be.
Yeah, you know, like just the sheer number of disappearing pics that I get, right? Or the I will not under any circumstances show my face. Where I'm just like, baby, I don't care how pretty it is. Like, I'm not gonna suck it if you don't have a nice face. Like, come on.
Andrew,
no, go ahead.
No. I was just wondering, like, has any of your research, and we didn't touch on this on the podcast, like cover like Snapchat and camming and like those other sort of not as mainstream forms of like gay connection?
Yeah. So I ask that question because I'm really interested in like how people use different platforms differently, and like whether the rules of certain platforms are different for different people. And the response that I've gotten is this sort of level of platform like agnosticism, where it's like, we're going to do this no matter where it is, right? Like, I'm just interested in transmitting my nudes somehow. And like some platforms make that possible to do that in a way where, you know, Grindr albums are a relatively new feature where you can have a little bit more control over it, and disappearing photos on Instagram. So the novelty of Snapchat has kind of worn off a little bit. So, but I expect there's more to it than that, where like maybe if you're in a more trying to maintain a higher level of like anonymity, you might pursue nude sharing on a platform other than say Instagram.
Right.
Where it's easier to attribute them to you.
Vouch have had people actively move the chat to Snapchat because they want to share in a place where they can send it disappearing and then delete.
Mm-hmm.
And then delete.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will have like nude specific Snapchat accounts, right? It's not like their personal Snapchat. It'll be like some like XXX Snapchat account without their name on it. That's another sort of contradiction where they'll like the guys I've talked to at least have told me that it doesn't matter, that they'll do it wherever. But I expect there's more to it than that. Where
yeah, I feel like there's like a level of like more security on Snapchat because it has those like built-in features. But
and
somebody,
go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say it's and I think the open question is whether that is even true or whether it matters, because I think a lot of that like more security is like for yourself, and is for the mental exercise of saying that I'm like not opening myself up to this thing that might potentially expose me or make me vulnerable in some way or threaten my anonymity. And I don't know the answer. I think that's kind of an open question of like whether like migrating to a different platform is actually meaningful or whether it's sort of a mental exercise.
Well, and the interesting thing about Snapchat that somebody on Instagram DM'd me after listening to our episode, and he said that he got added to a Snapchat group of like 100+ dudes, many of whom say that they're married to women. And the majority of what they do is take horrible pictures of their dicks and compliment each other. I don't fully understand the point of it because it's not great community. There's not like discourse or responses, but the number of people in the group stays very high. And so again, I think it's like close friends meets OnlyFans, where it's like you can just send without caring as much about the actual reception, which I also think is just how people use Snapchat anyway.
Yeah.
And
I don't like interesting.
It's interesting. It makes me think about the cam community, right? Because like so many times I'll get hit up who's like, do you want to watch me jack? You want to watch me finish? I'm like, I don't actually. Like that's so not my thing. You know, no harm or foul to anyone for whom it is their thing, but also it feels not very participatory to me, right? Like you're participating, but I'm just watching. That's not my jam. Andrew, I'm just kind of realizing we may have jumped right into like the depths of everything without really sort of summarizing for the audience, because there's kind of a dissonance in my mind. I've got so many straight friends, and particularly straight women friends who, if you talk about like an unsolicited dick pic, like that's a red alert, world-ending, block forever, right? And that's just not true in the queer community, in the gay community. So what are some of the just kind of high-level findings, would you say, so far in terms of like the way gay men interact with nudes?
Well, I think part of it is that sometimes it is true for gay automatic block and it's disgusting, and that, you know, because I think that has been the high level finding is that like the rules are different for everybody. Like they're different from straight people for sure, right? And you hear from straight women about the unsolicited dick pics as sexual harassment, and it's disgusting, and it's the reason why you can't send photos from your camera roll on Tinder and Hinge, right? Because it opens up women to sexual harassment.
Right.
I think a lot of guys would not call receiving an unsolicited dick pic from another gay man sexual harassment. Which
a lot of people said in the comments for clips of our reel, like there was a huge disagreement about how people quantify that and close friends, and like people accused us of saying it was sexual harassment, and I was like, we didn't actually say that.
No, I know. People thought we were being sex negative about it, and I was like, wait, if you listen to the episode, we are not being sex negative about it at all.
I have listened. Not sex negative at all.
But I'm just trying. All I am trying to do is articulate that, like, the rules are different for different. Some people interpret it as sexual harassment, and that's like valid for those people, you know. And if receiving an unsolicited dick pic is upsetting to you, that doesn't make you like less of a gay man. It doesn't make you a prude. And if it's hot for you to receive an unsolicited dick pic, it doesn't make you a slut who like doesn't have any boundaries. Like it's that I think the difference is being gay versus being straight doesn't like free us from like the rules that govern straight sexual exchange. It just opens us up to different kinds of rules that and like interpreting them in different way, where it's less monolithic, I think, than it is for straight people. It's less of one thing. It's not nothing. It's just different things for different people.
Yeah. And I think listening to the podcast and Andrew listening to you talk about it, that was the predominant thing that I came away with, which is, if anything, it is highly, highly specific, right? Like there are some dudes who in their profile say, for the love of God, do not send me your unsolicited dick or butthole pic, right? Like I will block you if you do this. And I have absolutely seen profiles that are like, if you're not showing me that ass, like don't even talk to me, right? Like, and so it's really almost not just a patchwork. It is absolutely dependent upon the person that you're interacting with and what their personal boundaries are, right?
Yeah.
And like how attracted you are to them.
Right.
And like your level, like I think that's the other thing about Grindr that I don't think we covered as much on the podcast is like, you're going to behave differently at 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m., and midnight,
Right.
And like, if somebody sends you a nude at 10 a.m., there's a higher chance that you're going to be like, but if you're like bored and horny at midnight and that same person sends you the exact same picture, you'll be like, oh, okay. Like, and again, so it obviously is like so nuanced.
How cock hangry am I at that point?
Right. Well, and the fascinating thing is
Isn't that always the
Sniffy's, they said that Sniffy's most active time is 1 p.m. on Monday.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, TikTok, you got a couple hours. Get ready, everybody.
No, everyone get ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting point that there is also, forgive me for going here again, but like, is it pretty, right? Like, are you sending me an unsolicited dick pic? I mean, I got to tell you, there was a time that somebody sent me a dick pic and I was like, that is a hate crime. Like that is the ugliest cock I have ever seen in my life. You sending me that unsolicited is like a war crime. You should be in Den Haag being persecuted for a war crime for sending me that. I can't unsee it.
Which in that case, they should go read my article about how to take a pretty dick pic.
Number one, don't do it over the toilet for the love of God.
Oh no.
Oh my God.
Nope. That was big.
Clean
feedback.
up the background. How many times do I have to tell,
But have a little bit of frame of reference. There should be enough in the photo so that you can figure out what you're working with.
Right. Do you have a bookcase of interesting books behind it? Then I'm more interested.
What are you reading? A little bit of
Right.
Kant, a little bit of Dig.
Right. Do you play Catan and other interesting board games? Great. Much more interesting.
Well, actually, somebody, now I can't even remember like where this might have been on a reel about Grindr. Somebody said that he put in that like on his front page of his Grindr picture, his first picture, that he put like him in cosplay, and he put on his binder that he was into cosplay because he's like, I know that is going to limit my chances or limit my number of people, but I know that I will find the right person. And I think he said he found his boyfriend of like many, many years.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's another really interesting way to be like, here's my interests right up front.
Right.
Let's see who bites.
Because I was going to say, like, if I can see your Star Wars action figures behind your penis, I am not interested, right? And I know for a fact, like, first ex-husband would have, like, that would have, for him, that would have been a huge yes. Do you have a Captain America action figure on the bookshelf behind your penis? He's all in, right? Like,
my very first boyfriend now has a massive Captain America tattoo.
Yeah, there you go. For some people, that's the jam. Andrew, I was thinking about as you guys were talking, and I really appreciated that you kind of talked about this in the podcast. Like, I'm really cognizant of the fact we're three attractive white guys, right? Like there's a definite, and I'm 56. Like my experience online I can very much speak to how my experience online has changed over the last 20 years. Not just because online changed, but because I became Santa Claus somehow in the intervening 20 years. Right? But like there's definitely something about class, and you guys talked about it in the podcast. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Andrew.
Yeah, class is everything. It's and we talk about it in the podcast. It's like I mentioned this, that like not all of us interact with these platforms the same way, and we talked about it earlier about the rural urban divide, but the class divide is also a really big deal in terms of how, to what extent you feel like you need to make yourself visible in that way online. Like a lot of folks I've talked to who admitted to sending unsolicited nudes said they did it to like attract someone who they might have perceived as being out of their league. Right. And then what does that mean? Does that mean like a white, fit, masculine gay guy, the person who we generally think of as having higher like class status amongst gay male sexual circles?
Right.
And then to what extent does that guy feel like that guy might be more likely to say, oh, I would never send unsolicited nude photos, but he might feel like he doesn't have to, right? Because it just comes to him. Right. So all of these positions are relative, and again, those folks inhabiting different class positions, or even perceptions of different class positions, have a different calculus of what it actually means to make yourself sexually visible online.
Yeah.
Which is
go ahead.
Go for it. Oh, I was just say like that was, I think, like the biggest thing. It was Andrew and I had our first talk like probably a year ago or so,
something like that.
And on that phone call, you were like, "Let me guess, you don't send a lot of unsolicited nudes." I was like, "Not really," and you're like, "But I bet you get a lot of them." And I was like, "Oh yeah," and then you were like, "Well, that is because of this sort of class disparity,"
right?
Which is like, again, like I think the biggest thing about privilege is that you don't know it is a privilege that you have until you are made aware of it.
Yeah.
And that really shaped my perception around how I exist on the apps and like what sort of that means. I forgot this on the podcast. I forgot number 5, but the 5 things that people look for in a Grindr picture inherently is tall, white, masculine, muscular, and athletic. And athletic is basically just if he thinks you're a top or not.
Right. I had this conversation with my ex in Seattle, and I was like, he's 35, but still kind of relatively new to coming out, like doing the whole I'm bi and DL, but I really love having sex with guys. And I was like, baby, you are tall, attractive, hung, and a top. You are going to be swimming in offers. And his experience online on Sniffies or Grindr is vastly different from mine, right? Because he and he's got a really pretty cock. And so he just shows it and has 100 offers, And so his experience of using Sniffies is he's always in anonymous mode, because if he's not, he's literally inundated with offers and too much to, kind of keep up with. And so they're absolutely, and by, we're defining class essentially as like attractiveness, right? And Aiden kind of on those 5 parameters that you're talking about. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Are we talking about class in terms of, we're not talking in terms of money or education or any of those other parameters, are we?
Go ahead, Aiden. And then I'll go.
I think about it in terms of like currency. Ironically, you said not money, but like currency, right? Like we all have differing levels of currency. And I think like that has been a helpful way for me to think about it, because even when I did this little like survey about masculinity last week, the most perceived physical trait that people associated with masculinity was hair, like either face or body, right? Yep. And I think the fucked upness of gay culture is like you can feel like the best thing in the world until you stand next to someone who has a currency you don't have.
Correct.
And then you're like, oh, and now I feel bad about myself.
Right.
You know, so I just see it as like this, and yes, like a privilege and a currency and class, like there are so many differing levels of it, but it is so, again, like complex.
Yeah, I like the use of currency there because yes, we are talking about attractiveness, but obviously attractiveness is like relative and subjective, and all like not everyone is looking for like a muscular white top, you know. So I think it's and we talk a little bit on the podcast about the like sort of economy of like Grindr as a sort of economy and your nudes as being like entities of value. And I think that's like it's what's valuable to you, right? And for a lot of people, what's valuable is, you know, white masculine tops with pretty cocks or whatever. But that's not what's
funny when Andrew says it.
It was funny when you said it too. I just like, and then again, I'm just like, I love that we get to talk about this.
I know. Right. What a great way to start our week. But it's all relative. It's, you know, it's what currency you value. So yeah, class takes on a whole bunch of I mean, some people are looking for someone who's like educated and rich, right? Like, or like the more traditional markers of class. But
and like, wealth gives you access to certain places, like especially in New York. I'm like, we're literally talking about going out to Fire Island this summer, and I'm like, that is like a $2,000 trip at minimum for a week.
At minimum. Yeah.
And like as a
and you're sharing a house, and you're right. Like it's not, yeah.
And it's like I've had conversations with friends of mine who are much wealthier than I am, and it's not a thing that they think about. Or like going out to parties, it's like, if a ticket is $100, like that's a very different investment for me than it is for somebody who works on Wall Street.
Right. Yeah. The circuit parties, the Fire Island thing, that's like a absolute like marker of class difference.
100%.
So
we all probably know people who prioritize that, right? Like I absolutely know guys who their life mission is to go to every bear party they like. Sieges and, you know, Russian River and every big bear party in the world they've gone to, they're there every year. Like they work only so that they can do that. And I know there are guys who do that for the circuit parties and other stuff as well. Like that may be a currency for some people, but it is a lifestyle that you have to have money to be able to afford.
Completely. Yeah. And so, and that's what I'm talking about in terms of class is that there are, and I think it reinforces the thing that I was talking about earlier in like not thinking of like gay spaces as like democratized, right? Or like as like fully liberatory and free from like the perils of heteronormative capitalist society. Because gay culture is still sort of structured in those ways by class divides and by capitalism and by, you know, all of these and by racism and all of these things that impact straight people's lives too. So being gay doesn't give us like a pass.
Right. In fact, I would almost argue the opposite, right? That in some ways, gay culture is more structured and less democratic, more patriarchal and racist. And I mean, how many times have you seen a profile where somebody is like, sorry, just not attracted to black guys, just not my thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're racist. You're just allowed to say that you're racist because you're expressing it as your sexual preference, air quotes.
Right. I will say, I mean, maybe this is more true in New York though, because I was thinking about this. I was asked to like do an interview for a piece for someone. I was like, that language has like at least receded a little bit. Like I remember definitely like 10 years ago, it was in bios. Like it was just like your preference, your racism couched as a preference was in the bio.
Right.
And now at least like, you know, I don't know if that has changed or if it's just less visible, but at least I have to imagine that it has made like a little bit more of a impactful space.
I don't know. Sorry, are you done? I would say, well, first of all, it's become bannable on certain apps to say things like that. I know it's bannable on Tinder. Grindr got rid of like ethnicity filtering a couple of years ago, right? So platforms have taken steps to mitigate that. So that's not entirely like gay culture becoming more evolved. The other thing I would say is that this is another thing in my research that's come up as a location difference, where like different folks in like different sexual communities have talked about being more open-minded than folks in other sexual communities, where like in certain parts of the world or in certain cities or wherever, there's less the culture of the sexual community there is more democratized and more open-minded than it is in places with more rigid structures. So I can't.
Moments of that, like on Scruff, for example, one of the places where there is, like a race selector, I've noticed way more people selecting multiracial as, even if it like, their name is John O'Connery and they're the most Irish person who ever, they're picking multiracial because it's a way of sort of opting out of that as a structure, right?
Yeah.
Andrew, what would you say is the most surprising thing that you've come across so far in your research? Like, what has there been something where you've been like, holy shit, the data has showed me something that has surprised me?
I mean, every day. And I think Aiden asked me this question too, so I'm going to try and give a different answer. I think at least the thing that's been most interesting to me is the sort of contradictory nature of a lot of the ways we talk about this, in that I ask a lot of questions about like sharing other people's nude photos and revenge porn and whatever. And a lot of people will talk in very moralizing terms about that behavior, about it being wrong and it being disgusting, and then admit to doing it. So there's like a disconnect that I think is so interesting between our stated values and our behavioral values. And that's not to call anyone out, because I do it too, where I like sort of perform this. And again, you're talking to a researcher, you're talking to a doctoral candidate, and this is going to go in a paper. And so maybe you're like, oh my God, like this, this thing is, it came up a lot with AI too. I asked about AI and people are like, oh my God, I would never, it's disgusting. It's, it's everything that's wrong with society. And I masturbated to it last week. It's like, it's like we go through these motions of like trying to either convince me or ourselves, I don't know, that like we're on the correct side of this like social boundary when our behavior says otherwise. And that is what I have found like the most like captivating about my research, and what I'm still trying to what I'm going to spend the next year trying to understand is this because it's all about these sort of moral social boundaries that we set for ourselves and each other, and where we position ourselves relative to those boundaries.
I'm stuck in my head on the whole like, oh, AI, it's gross, it's disgusting, I masturbated to it yesterday, right? Like it like it's the new Tom of Finland, right? Like in the for my generation and the men before me, it was Tom of Finland. Yes, there you go. Hyper masculine, like just absolutely unreal, completely unrealistically sized cocks. And like that's what AI porn is now, right? It's like the body that is literally impossible for a human to have, but flags hyper masculinity or whatever it is that you're into, right?
It's spooky. It's spooky, especially because it's like it's all over Substack. Like the Substack, like sort of like sometimes my feed is like this weird sort of like, it feels like political Tumblr where it's like AI porn and Tumblr. I mean, and politics. And yeah, I don't know. I have not jerked off to AI porn that I know of.
Marked safe.
But again, marked safe from, and it's just like it's so interesting. But I hadn't thought about it like Tom of Finland, because I guess we were already doing it. Now it's just not a person putting it out.
The way that we did it is you needed somebody who was a really talented artist and pervy in the same ways that you were pervy, right? Wanted to see hyper masculine features and like 15-inch cocks or whatever, and they had to draw him,
Yeah, it's this question of what actually makes it unethical, right? And I as the researcher have to go in with a really open mind, right? Like I as the researcher can't go in and say like AI porn is disgusting, don't you think? Like because that's like I have to ask really open-minded questions about AI porn and ask like what actually is it that's upsetting to people about it? Like what is it that's unethical? And some folks can really clearly articulate that, and some folks like really can't, and like have the capacity to find it hot and have the capacity to masturbate to it, and like that's okay too. But it is this. I almost feel like we're not even like ready as a culture to talk about it, because it's like because no one is willing to sort of to admit to their like actual behaviors around it, and that makes it hard.
Leo Herrera has some really interesting writing about it. He had a piece called The Rape of Henry Cavill, and this was maybe like a year and a half ago, when Henry Cavill was like the prime example of everyone just taking his photos and putting them on any sort of generated image, and just like questions about consent. And it's interesting because I'm like, I have a really visceral reaction against it, but I don't know if I can verbalize exactly why.
Well, there's also a difference between deep fake porn and like general AI porn. Right. Those are two different things. And I think the politics of those two different things are really different. But even in the deep fake porn space, which is almost universally thought of as like more problematic, there's a long history of folks like photoshopping Henry Cavill's face onto pornographic images, and no one was really that up in arms about that. You know, like that's or like some artistic rendering of Henry Cavill as Superman with his cock out, like that someone drew themselves on an iPad. Is that different from an AI generated image of that? You know,
because they
like,
took the time to do it. They cared.
And we're supporting queer art and all of that. You know, but like the ethics, it's fan fiction, exactly, and like the fan fiction has been around forever, and it's the ethics of it are different when it's AI. So it's like a whole. Again, it's so touchy, and it's hard to even talk about because folks are so quick to jump to like, oh, this is disgusting. And I think there's more to it than that.
Yeah. So we're coming up on kind of the top of the hour, and I'm trying to think of how to wrap this conversation up, because honestly, I feel like we could talk about this subject forever. Andrew, is there a big question that you haven't found an answer to yet? Is there something that's sort of in the scope of your research that eludes you?
All of it. What are you talking about? Like, I don't have any answers.
There's too many questions.
Right. I don't have any answers. I think it's like, I think I like, and I said this to Aiden too, that like, I am not I'm not like trying to come out with a book that is like, these are the rules of gay culture, right? Yeah. Like this is gay culture as I've seen it. Like because I don't think that's possible. And I don't think that's really even like responsible to produce. Like I'm like,
sorry, because I did name the thumbnail "The Hidden Rules of Hookup Culture." And
I know.
Did do well.
I love that title. I was like, ooh, that's such a good title. I want to use that. But it's also like and it's and there are hidden rules, right? And that those are the things that I'm like looking to uncover, but it's not like you can articulate like a set of like, okay, I figured it out, everyone. Like, this is how it works, you know. And by the time I finish this dissertation, there will be like some new platform that's disrupting everything as well, and the rules around AI will have changed. And you know, like I think I'm just and I think that's where I sort of stopped short of like telling guys how to feel and how to. I try to, and that was what folks were not understanding about that close friends comment on the podcast is like, I'm not telling you how to post on close friends. You know, like I'm not telling you this is how gay guys post on close friends. This is how like a couple of gay guys that I've talked to post on close friends. And this is how they feel about it. And I'm going to sort of extrapolate from there of like what I think the implications of that are. But it's all questions at this point. It's no answers.
Well, I mean, and it kind of goes back to that thing we said earlier about how it is so specific about the two people interacting, right? Like the hidden rules of hookup culture are whatever 2 or 3 or 10 people are flirting and, you know, exchanging messages, it's about that dynamic that's created in that moment. Somebody who absolutely positively doesn't want to see a dick pic, and somebody who, unequivocally will not hook up with you unless they see a dick pic, right? Like, it's absolutely sort of situationally generated depending on who's doing it.
Completely. I'll also I don't know if this is the right place to take it into the home stretch too, but the reason why, because I think something else that I wanted to address in the comments, but the comments weren't the right place to do it, is we'd get people are dying, you guys, why are you talking about this? And I think too, even going back to the privilege and the class and the currency, at least my goal in talking about these things, right? I think the digital platforms, for all of the good they have done, have made us much less patient with each other. They've stratified us much more.
Yep.
And so the lane that I view this in is the more that we talk about this thing and have a little bit more patience for other people, and especially the conversations I have with the higher currency, white gays, to be have you ever considered these things in a way that actually lets us become closer to each other? Because that, in my opinion, is the only place to start to then enact the other change that we need to do. The gay rights movement used to be much more unified. It still had many, many factions, but now we are so disunified. And it's if we can just like each other a little bit more and have a little bit more patience for each other, we can then move the needle, I think.
Yeah, I think that was actually a better way to put it than I even could have put it myself, because my response to that was kind of fuck off. I don't have to justify the importance of my research to you, because if you don't care about it, then you don't care about it. I think it's and it's true. People are dying. I have never claimed to be curing cancer. It's right. But I think as long as gay men are using the internet to have sex and to mediate sexual encounters, and as long as it's a thing that is happening, it is a thing that is worth talking about, and it is a thing that is worth studying. Well, it's a part of our realities, and I, as a social scientist, am saying, that means that it's worth a scientific inquiry.
100%. Yeah.
And I would take it back to the perspective of, again, 56. Holy fucking shit. I don't know how I'm this old. But the generation of gay men before me, they mostly died, right? My experience as a younger gay man was that all the dudes that I would have learned things from got HIV and died because it was, pre any med, right? And so there is a thing about capturing some knowledge and educating younger generations, or and think about it, all of us, I'm sure, know gay men who maybe got married to a woman, tried to have, a normal straight life. Maybe they came out later at 30 or 40 or 50 or whatever. There is something about wayfinding, right? And sharing community knowledge and history, and just understanding the way that the gay culture works, because it is different from straight culture, and so much of that knowledge got lost in the generations that we lost to the AIDS crisis. So that, I know that's a drum that I beat all the time, but it's true, right? It's still so much a piece of my lived experience, and yeah, I think what you're doing is really important, Andrew. So
me too.
I've got last week, or maybe the week before, Aiden, I don't remember. We asked a funny question at the end. Not funny, but I really liked it. I kind of think it should be our shtick, which is, great. What are you listening to at the moment that is giving you life, right?
Just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. What about you? What are you listening to at the moment that is your jam?
Oh my God. What am I listening to that is my jam? It's oh my, I'm going to sound like such a basic white gay. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no, we're going to kick you off.
We're going to kick you off in 30 seconds anyway.
Right.
It's literally Sweetener by Ariana. I've been re-listening to Sweetener. And I'm such a basic Ariana Grande gay. And it's and it's so, the formula is so tried and true that like the beginning of an Ariana Grande song starts playing and I just like feel blood start like pumping into my chest.
Right.
But it brings me so much joy, and I'm like, it hasn't always been Sweetener, but that is what I was like just re-listening to on the bus. I spent a lot of time on the bus, and I was like, oh, like life is worth living. What am I talking? You know, like it's
Yeah.
Good music does that.
Yeah. Aiden, what about you?
Okay, I have a lot to say really quickly. I took from Ben Green his idea of like actually listening to full albums again.
Nice.
And not skipping through them. And there have been 3 albums that have come out very recently that are all incredible. The new Mumford & Sons album, the new Harry Styles album, and the new James Blake album. And then the singular song that I could not stop playing yesterday was Berghain, the remix that just came out. Lawrence, it's so good.
All right.
And it's like 2.5 minutes. It's what she did at the Brit Awards, and it is so good.
All right. I got to check that out.
What about you?
I'm also super basic. I love Above and Beyond. Like, I love EDM. I don't know why Above and Beyond. Like, there's just something about their music in particular that's like my jam. And this is talk about basic. So they had a new album come out last year that I didn't find out about until relatively recently. And so I've been listening to that like on nonstop repeat, and you guys, like some of the lyrics to this song are so dumb. Like some of the song lyrics are just really not good, right? But I love the vocalists that they choose, and I love their beats. And so they've got a song, "Blood from a Stone," that is like on my magic repeat over and over again. Like, you know, I'm at the gym and it's literally on repeat, and I'm like powering my entire workout to that one song kind of thing.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh, I'm going to listen to it when I go to the gym today.
Yeah. Andrew, where can people find you before we go?
They can find me on Instagram at Andrew Restieri. It's just my name, no dots or anything. Restieri. It's right here. You can also find my website, andrewrestieri.com, which has more information about my research, and my email is linked there.
And that Substack account that has 2 subscribers, is that actually you?
It is actually me. I made it like a month ago, and I was like, I am at some point going to start writing on it. That point has not yet come, but hopefully it will at some point in the future.
Subscribe so that when Andrew does start publishing things on Substack, you can go read it there.
Get it.
Aiden, what about you? Where can people find you?
Instagram, Aiden Wharton, Substack, Gay Buffet, podcast, Getting Close.
Yeah. All right. I am also on Instagram, although I can't remember what is my porn account and what's my real account, so I'm not actually comfortable to. I think it's Ellie Winterman. I think that's the clean one.
I think so.
Yeah, it's definitely not Beefy Papa. Don't look at that one. And I'm here on Substack, lwinner.substack.com. I just published this morning my first speculative fiction article based on the 2 kind of hinge events that I explored in my 2 most recent articles. So this is my whole little thing where I'm doing a triptych. It's 2 articles kind of talking about current events and trends that are happening, acceleration events that are happening in society and culture and politics. And then the third piece is always going to be a piece of speculative fiction based on those 2 things. It's about oil prices spiking in the Strait of Hormuz, but it's set in 2029 during a Gavin Newsom presidency. So go check it out. I'm really proud of this one. Andrew, Aiden, thank you so much. This was such a fun show, you guys.
Always.
Thank you so much for having me.
Andrew, when do we get to read your stuff before we go?
You'll know when I do.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for being here, everyone. Have a great day. Love you, mean it. Bye.
Bye, chat.